evening. Recent enthusiasm for new dams in Otago is being dampened down by Electro Corp. The people of Lawrence met last night with high hopes of a dam or two on the lower Clutha. But as Mark Price reports, the closest they got was yes, maybe, perhaps someday in the near or distant future.
The next power station might be at Luggett or Queensbury, it might be near Beaumont, it could be on the lower Waitaki. Then again, it could be on a geothermal field in the North Island. About all that Electro Corp's top brass in the dam building field told Lawrence people was that the corporation's looking at its options. But one thing made clear was that a dam at Luggett doesn't necessarily have top billing.
Currently it's still the only site that's available to be constructed, but there are the other options that we're currently investigating. If they prove to be a much better investment for us, then we would proceed with those.
Mr Cox is in charge of investigations of potential sites. At Luggett, his job's all but finished, and if Electro Corp suddenly decides it wants a new dam, then Luggett is in a good position to proceed. But all the while, investigations are being done on the lower Clutha. If Electro Corp in 5 years' time decides it wants a dam, then the lower Clutha will be ready to stand alongside Luggett and other sites as a firm option. There are two prongs to Electro Corp's investigations. There's the geological work, then there's getting on side with the local community.
A place like Lawrence can do a lot to help us, and if you want the development, then together we can work that out. As we see a successful scheme as one where we gain an asset for our business, which is very good for the business, but we also see one which works in with the local community so they gain an asset.
It's a similar strategy to that employed by BHP at Macrae's Flat, where it wants to mine for gold. Most of the problems there were ironed out between the company and locals long before the project even surfaced in planning hearings. As for Lawrence, struggling to find ways to revitalise the town, Electro Corp doesn't appear to have too many opponents. On the land directly affected by a dam, Electro Corp still has some way to go.
Department of Conservation staff were in Oamaru today to express their opposition to the establishment of a dump close to the Bushy Beach Scenic Reserve. The Watton site is favoured by the Oamaru Committee, charged with setting up a new landfill area. But opposition's mounting because of its close proximity to a yellow-eyed penguin nesting place. A public meeting will be held next month before a final decision is made. One of the great sporting traditions of this country, the inter-school rugby clash, is alive and well. Ken Nicholson went to one of the keenest matches at this level between the Waitaki and St Kevins first 15s at Oamaru. He came away delighted that all the character of inter-school rugby is still there.
To have schools of such high repute in a town as small as Oamaru is a real achievement. But it's not only on the scholastic front that schools such as Waitaki Boys High School, with its marvellous old buildings being restored, and St Kevins and its majestic surroundings are famous. In years gone by, the rugby standards of these schools have made a significant contribution to the game in this country. Men such as Bill Hazlitt in the 20s, and C.C. Gillies of the 30s, through to Axopa of the 50s, and many more went on to All Black honours. From St Kevins there was Jimmy Kearney, Kevin Skinner, and Bill McCaw. Others such as Kevin Laidlaw, in fact 4 from both schools, went on to be All Blacks but couldn't even make the first 15s of these famous schools. No wonder then that the annual inter-school clash arouses so much passion in Oamaru. It's 7:30 in the morning at St Kevins, and Carl Schmack, an outstanding young footballer and captain of the first 15, muses over breakfast. In front of him is the most important day of his school life. He's aware of the history which surrounds the annual match against Waitaki.
It's very special. We went over to Waitaki in '87 with big hopes and got taken down. So I'm out there today. I'm ready for them.
Across town, the junior boys of Waitaki go to assembly. On the day, the heroes of their own first 15 do battle against St Kevins. A special hymn has been picked for this day. The rector's prayer for the day acknowledges the special occasion.
As we strive in friendly sporting rivalry with St Kevins today, help us to play hard but fair, accepting victory without arrogance and losses without excuse.
And here's the kick by Wilson. He struck it pretty well, and the wind curves it inside.
Up from 12-3 down at one point, St Kevins comes back to win in the best traditions of a boys' own annual. All brings back memories. Actually, I played against Waitaki in my last year at school. We just had to win that game. We didn't. But life carried on. Amazing, really.
And for the record, St Kevins won the match 24 points to 12. An American bluegrass band will pluck its stuff in Dunedin tonight. The BCH quartet is being toured by the American Information Service. As Bryn Somerville reports, it'll play here and in Auckland before an extensive island-hopping tour of the Pacific and Micronesia.
Nashville, Tennessee's the real home of bluegrass, not Kentucky as the name suggests. Bill Monroe and his Bluegrass Boys used the Grand Ole Opry to make it famous in the 40s. Television shows like Andy Griffith and the Beverly Hillbillies boosted its popularity in the 60s. Byron Berline, Dan Creary and John Hickman are the original BCH.
The people in the backwoods of America still sitting on their front porches blowing into jugs and picking banjos?
Oh, I think that's kind of blown out of proportion to what bluegrass is. It's not necessarily hillbilly music with pointed hats and jugs and hound dogs sitting around, you know.
In fact, the greatest collection of bluegrass musicians and bluegrass music on the air and so on is in Washington, D.C.
BCH is right up among America's most popular bluegrass bands. Their first trip to New Zealand. Fans of Americana hope it won't be their last.
When you finally tell me what I know's on your mind, don't cry, don't let those teardrops start. Tell me that you're leaving and you'll be gone for good, but speak softly, you're talking to my heart. Just speak softly, you're talking to my heart.
And that's the South tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Good night.